Hello, I'm Bob Klein, and I'm here with John Little. John is an institute professor, of which there are only 12 at MIT, and a member of the marketing group at MIT Sloan. John's a pioneer in marketing science, famous for his work in queuing theory, marketing models, and marketing decision support systems. John has been recognized by the National Academy of Engineering, the American Marketing Association, and the Institute for Operations Research and Management Sciences. John is a longtime teacher, friend, mentor, and business partner, and it's a real honor to sit with him today. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Not that many people have laws named after them. And in 1961, you wrote the paper that proved L equals lambda W, which became one of the fundamental laws of queuing theory, which is really the study of waiting lines. What do the L, lambda, and W stand for?
You don't get to name a law after yourself. But over the years, many authors starting referring to the formula as Little's law. I haven't objected. Told them to correct it. And this happened, I think, because there were a lot of applications. I mean, there's many mathematical theorems who were designed for obscurity, and Little's law pops up. Now, what does the formula mean? Okay. The formula is L equals lambda W. L is the average number in a queue.
Okay.
Lambda is the arrival rate of customers. And W is the average weight by a customer.
Okay.
That's Little's law. A good way to express it is W equals L over lambda, because W is the average weight in line, and that's something you'd like to reduce. Little's law isn't going to reduce it for you, but it tells you your goal, and it tells you what you need to affect. You need to affect L, which is the average number in the queue, and you need to affect, and you'd like to get that down, and you need to affect lambda, which is the arrival rate, which also equals the exit rate, and so you would like to increase that. Mm-hmm. Then you have the average weight in queue, and you can work on it.
For example, a simple example might be thinking about my wine rack at home. If I wanted to know how long on average I was keeping my wine, aging it, I've got my wine rack, and it'll hold 200 bottles, but it's usually about 3/4 full. So I've got like 150 bottles in my basement, and I buy about a case every other month, so that's 6 bottles a month. So if I take 150 for L and 6 bottles a month for lambda, divide them, I get 25 months on average, which is just a little bit over 2 years. So I'm not doing a very good job of aging my wine, I guess.
Oh, no, you're not. And my advice to you is to set up another rack where you pay more for the wines, you keep them longer, and you enjoy them more.
And I use Little's law for that, for each one separately.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we were saying queues are kind of everywhere, from bank lines to the internal processes of a computer chip. What are some real-world examples of how Little's law has been used?
One is the staffing of emergency departments in hospitals. And patients arrive by ambulance with red lights flashing. Arrivals are unpredictable. The unexpected is the norm. Doctors, nurses, X-ray machines, and you have to have them on hand. Now, saving lives is your goal, but for survivors and the hospital, average length of stay is a key efficiency measure. And length of stay is in essentially W, and it equals the average number of patients in the system, and divided by the average arrival rate, which you don't control. And so LL supplies the structure, and it's basically the basic science underlying the operation.
How about in manufacturing?
Jet engine parts for a new fleet of commercial aircraft.
Okay.
And it's a business opportunity which recognized by a friend of mine. The more fuel efficient jet engines are likely to take over the market. And he works with a jet engine supplier. If you do your work right, you can operate at a higher temperature, and that means a more efficient engine. So the owner of the company purchased it and improved the process. And he decreased the parts in process and increased the throughput, and basically cycle time, the average time to produce a part is equal to the number of parts in process divided by the throughput. And so again, LL is the basic science of the process, and he is very financially successful. He solved a lot of problems besides this one.
Besides that one. Epidemiology even has examples of Little's Law.
Right. I have a friend, Professor Ed Kaplan at Yale, who works on health issues. He says the most famous equation in epidemiology is prevalence equals incidence times duration.
That's just Little's Law.
That's just Little's Law. That's just L equals lambda W.
I understand you got a call a few years ago from a computer chip designer out in California. Can you tell me about it?
Okay. Well, he called me up, picked up the phone and said hello, and he said, "Is this John Little?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Is this the Little of Little's Law?" I said, "Yes." He said, well, he actually paused a minute. He said, "Do you have any more laws?" Because I find this one very useful. And I said, "Fresh out this week."
Yeah. So you went from physics to operations research to traffic signals to marketing. And in 1970, you published a paper, Models and Managers, the Concept of a Decision Calculus. And that was named one of the 10 most influential papers in the first 50 years of the journal Management Science. And the paper begins with the statement, "The big problem with management science models is that managers never use them." And I remember reading that and thinking, uh-oh. But what did you mean by that statement, and how did people react?
Well, first of all, it was a protest paper, as far as I was concerned, against the models that were being built at that time, many of them. And secondly, I wanted to tell people how to fix it.
Okay.
And so I made a list of issues, fixes. I said a model to be used by a manager should be simple, robust, easy to control, adaptive, as complete as possible, and easy to communicate with. Okay, what do those words mean? Okay, simple means easy to understand it. If the manager doesn't understand it, he won't use it.
You won't trust it. Right.
That's right. Robust. The model won't give you silly answers. And many models, and I could tell you stories, if you push them very hard, they give you silly answers. Easy to control. Okay, that means that you understand that if you give it a set of inputs, you understand what the outputs will be. And they can be in words, as far as that goes. Adaptive. Okay, the world changes, and the model should change if the world changes. As complete as possible. This is probably my most controversial, because I broke a constraint that everybody else accepted. I said, if the manager has an issue that you haven't got in the model, then you should find a way to put it in the model and encourage the manager and anybody else to calibrate it, making it much more complete. And easy to communicate. Well, in this day of video and graphical interfaces, these problems are solved, and but you should do them quickly, because the right time to be using is the thinking time of the manager, and that should be your guideline.
So when you were developing the ideas behind models and managers, you were doing work with companies like Nabisco and Coca-Cola, and how did those experiences motivate or influence your thinking about marketing models?
Well, I was tremendously lucky to consult at Nabisco and Coke at the same time. Nabisco and Coke were such different companies. I mean, Nabisco had a sales force that, at least at that time, went into the grocery stores and put packages of Oreos and Triscuits on the shelf. Coke, on the other hand, it only sells syrup to bottlers. Gets a pretty good price, I think.
Yeah.
And it supports it with a lot of marketing. And particularly advertising. And so, and Nabisco advertises its individual products with spot advertising, say Oreo or Nutter Butter, whereas Coke has one big product, it dwarfs all the others. So they're very different, and I learned a lot.
How did companies like Nabisco and Coke make use of the models and the data that were becoming available?
Well, I had an anecdote about that, because a a Sloan MBA, took a summer job, an internship at Coke. He went down there and he took a database, and this says a lot about the software that he was using, which was made by a company I was affiliated with. And he brought up the data, and the marketing manager there, senior person, asked for a demo. Okay, that was fine. So they did the demo. They called up sales in Chicago and explained the prices and the competitive prices and things like that. The marketing manager said, well, you must be awfully smart, because the people in MIS downstairs have been trying to do this for years, and that was the state of the art, frankly. And he had done it in a summer. But the software was changing. Bolstered by this praise, they said, ask me anything.
Famous last words.
Right. What the marketing manager said was, well, tell me about the Los Angeles market. Pepsi has just introduced a 1-liter bottle. How much sales has it taken away from our 6-pack? Well, the marketing scientists and the MBA looked at each other in dismay and realized immediately what the rest of us might do in a little while, and that is, there aren't any numbers in the computer for sales that did not happen. What is required is a model. And we sat around and discussed reasonable assumptions, and we put it into this high-level language, and out it came, the sales that didn't happen.
Right.
And the marketing manager thought it was a good demo, and the rest of us thought it was a miracle. So
the lesson from that, though, is that managers ask analysis questions, not retrieval questions.
That's right. That's right. And you've lived in the same environment.
Yeah. How did working with Nabisco and Coke change or influence what happened in your classroom?
For the better.
Yeah.
In fact, I would be embarrassed.
Looking ahead, what do you see the role of the model builder, and how has that role changed with the availability of big data?
Okay, well, I wrote some predictions in 1979, and I'll review them. One, I said there would be an order of magnitude increase in the data available. And looking from 2015, I think it's maybe 10 orders of magnitude. Right. It's big data.
Right.
My next prediction, which is that the computer power will rise correspondingly. And I think that's thanks to Moore's law. The computers to handle big data is there. Then I suggested that there would be a shift from static data, well, not static because it changes all the time, but kind of the data facts, to market response reporting. And market response reporting is not so much price as price elasticity, not so much promotion as promotional effectiveness and display effectiveness and all the other things that go on in the packaged goods industry. And that has happened. And with that kind of material, and it's gone deeper and deeper, and the analysis has changed over the past 25 years, and it will change more. But that will make use of the big data and provide employment for a lot of good marketing scientists and share points for their employers.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, John.
Oh, well, thank you.